निकलनी चाहिए, वो ऊर्जा निकलनी हमारे। And these were the statements made on the 14th of November 2010. Ladies and gentlemen, I was asked to speak on coordination and administrative issues. Small effort, given I had a very small notice to be here. The way I understand the coordination and administrative issues, I've tried to, these of course are pictures of Kedarnath, Gaurikund and Rambada. There are about 205 villages in district Uttarakhand right now who have been affected equally. However, the three that I showed yesterday, they deserve special mention because of the enormous number of casualties that happened in these three areas. Coordination, the way I see it, one is the immediate short-term perspective, which is regarding search and rescue and relief. I think a lot has been spoken by all the agencies who were at work. I must concede that it was truly a fantastic effort by the armed forces, by the ITBP, by the NDRF, to do whatever best they could. However, whatever we should realize, I think, that no matter if we performed our best, it was still not good enough. The short-term coordination include the intrastate departmental coordination, the interstate, when I mean interstate, the various agencies, the Government of India, the other state governments, and of course, the Army, the paramilitary, the Air Force. Coordination with the NGOs and the voluntary organizations, and coordination with the media. Briefly, the intrastate, that is what the state and the district administration at Uttarakhand did. Just a slight appreciation of the fact that most of our men, including the disaster rescue teams, were stationed at Kedarnath when the tragedy happened. So they were the best people we had there, and they were the ones who were incapacitated by this tragedy. So there was a complete vacuum in the district because all the best people were already there in Kedarnath and they were suffering much like other pilgrims and the locals there. Our SDM and our local circle officer were held up in Kedarnath. They barely managed to save their lives, yet they stood there, they did not vacate their post, and they were there with the yatris and the pilgrims till the very last. In fact, we have lost a fellow officer on the 31st of July who is still untraceable. Then of course, the work of the civil administration was in the first phase to provide all possible logistic support to the people who were there in action, the armed forces, the paramilitary, the ITBP, and the NDRF. We identified 5 crucial roads which were very critical, and all our resources, the local resources that we had, were diverted in opening those 5 roads. Incidentally, 2 of those roads, one was the Mayali Guptkashi road and the other was the Khankra Kherakhal. The 2 roads which provided the first emergency exit to all those yatris who were being evacuated from Rudraprayag to Guptkashi and from Badrinath either to Joshima or to Kochi. And these 2 roads proved out to be lifelines. In fact, close to about 22,000-24,000 people were evacuated from Guptkashi on the Mayali Guptkashi road itself. Health, but after 20th, we had almost 200 doctors and paramedics catering to those pressure of about 12,000 to 15,000 people who were there at Guptkashi, Fata, Rampur and other places. 10 veterinary teams were completely dedicated to ensuring that all the animals that were there, the dead bodies, the decomposed bodies, were looked after there. Electricity, about 350 odd villages in Uttarakhand were affected. We still have about 14 villages which are without electricity today. Drinking water, civil supplies and transport. The first help, as I said, our best men were stuck up in Kedarnath and they were also under siege. Our first help came from Pauri, the neighboring district, and also from Tehri. DM Tehri was requested to open the Mayali Guptkashi road, as was DM Pauri who opened the Khirsu Kherakhal road. And as I said, they have turned out to be the lifeline for evacuating these yatris in the first phase. Resource mobilizations from the state came. Ultimately, the operations got taken over by the state. Jolly Grant Airport was the focal center for all operations because the only possible mode of rescue was through heli services. All the heli services will be coordinated from the state headquarters. The road connecting Rudraprayag to Gaurikund or Kedarnath. Kedarnath is of course a 14-kilometer walk from Gaurikund. Was damaged at several places. Till date, BRO, after almost 2 months of the tragedy, has not been able to establish a connectivity up to Sonpriyag. We are still relying on the internal loads of BRO. The bridges, both the water bridges and the foot bridges, were completely damaged in all 29 of them. And that to us for right now is the biggest challenge, to restore the connectivity amongst the remote villages of the district. These are the medical camps that we had organized. These were the yatris which were taken from Uttarakhand to safer locations, that is either Rishikesh or Haridwar. Heavy dropping of rations. This was one of our biggest achievements, that these are the 22 remote villages which have been completely cut off from the rest of the country, as I should say. And the only mode of communication is through helicopter services. And as you can see the photograph on the left, the helicopters have landed in some of the most incredible places. And I must make a special mention to all the civil helicopters. There were about 9 or 10 of them, and of course, eventually the numbers increased, who did an incredible job. In fact, there were instances where the Army and the Air Force was hesitant in trial landing, and one of our pilots, Captain Bhupinder, he took the initiative, landed his copters at incredible places in Rambara and Gaurikund, and that's how the other people followed me. The other aspect of the civil administration, of course, is that we have to look after those 205 affected villages also. So the distribution of relief has been done on a priority basis. It has been done in a completely transparent manner. Our SDMs are located at the places which have been affected, and they are ensuring, here we have the photograph of the Honorable District Magistrate and the Honorable NMA here, who are distributing relief in their own presence. There was a slight panic created that Uttarakhand is short of food grains, but the situation was otherwise, and the District Magistrate himself supervising the availability of stocks in the district. Now we come to the other aspect of search and rescue, which is the interstate coordination. Of course, the role of BRO, as BRO made a presentation. I still feel that incredible job has been done by the border organizations, but still a lot left to be done. And I would feel that this is where I think the coordination part comes in. We help BRO provide machines, either by way of the local L&T company that was posted there, or through the machines of the PW. There was a slight reluctance, as Brigadier Razdan pointed out in his presentation, about the payments. But I think when you're handling a crisis like this, I think payments and the modalities are a second priority. I think, and that is something which needs to be worked out, because BRO in Uttarakhand is catering to some of the most important roads, which are basically lifelines to the entire Garhwal and Kumaon divisions of Uttarakhand. And there needs to be a more coordination and an SOP with the BRO. Role of BRO
happened. The High Court PI, as I said, and the encroachment and the mule management, things were going on. There was strike of Dundee Gandhi on 11th, 12th. So there was a 12th meeting on Gaurikund, the strike was called off. Then helicopter services were also stopped on 13th because there were hue and cry about the pollution by helicopters. And SDM CO were sent to, in fact, the person who was on strike was Mr. Keshav Tiwari, who was sitting on the helipad, so the helicopters were not flying. On the 15th of the 16th, there were 325 millimeters of rain. So that was the main reason why it actually happened. And there was a news at 11 a.m. that 2 shops of Rambara have been washed away. So my people, they ran toward Keshav Tiwari कि भैया उठ जाओ, अब टाइम हो गया, अब बहुत ज़्यादा 2 दुकानें रामबाड़ा की उड़ गई हैं, अब तुम्हें वापस चलना है. So Tiwari was shifted to hospital. 12 p.m. there was this thing of the Bhairovnath side, from the Bhairov Mandir side, there was an avalanche. 1:30 p.m. there was a Doodh Ganga avalanche, which actually my jockeying charge at that time, he said that sir, there were about 400 people from Ghoda Padav, they have to be evacuated. So on 16th, 400 people from Ghoda Padav side, they were evacuated, the turbine stopped, so the electricity was also stopped. So, I mean, this raised the situation कि कुछ गड़बड़ हो रहा है, अब मीटिंग कर लेनी चाहिए. तो मीटिंग करके लोगों को ब्रीफ हमारे अपने, we started having the SDM and CO, they started briefing the force कि भाई about 91 to 100 people are here. So we have to actually manage the whole situation, because now the situation is like that something is going to happen. So announcement and whistlings that just be away from slide zone, be away from river. And at 5 p.m. we had a meeting with the लोकल ऑफिशियल्स, मंदिर समिति की शेल्टर्स के लिए कुछ करना पड़ेगा रात में. There was about 5-6 people of army and ITB also over there. So they also called कि 15-15 लोगों के जत्थे में, the moment rain stops, इनको 15-15 के जत्थे में गौरीकुंड तक पहुंचाते हैं. ये सब 16th को. 7:45 आरती जब कंप्लीट हुई, then about 8 PM there was a thund, जो जिसको कहते हैं कि there were, in fact this particular avalanche we couldn't able to find out from where it came, but it's actually certainly a local sort of lake formation, and this might have happened. In this particular avalanche, the CO and SDM, they were washed away, and about an hour, half an hour after it was in fact 9 PM they were found. For 1 hour there was a lull, and in fact the whole forces were called कि भाई CO and SDM नहीं मिल रहे, तो अब क्या करना चाहिए. 16th को Bhimbali, there was an avalanche on Bhimbali side. It's just near Rambara, and I mean about 20-23 people were trapped, and the mules were also trapped. So the person at Gaurikund said, "Sir, there is a problem at Bhimbali," and there were wireless messages that there is a major problem at Bhimbali. 5:30. It was in the morning of 16 that 35 mule handlers were trapped in Gaurikund area, so they were also rescued. Yatra was stopped. There was a wireless message that Yatra at Rishikesh has to be stopped. So everywhere, I mean, whosoever were there, they were stopped by the police checkpost. And about 9:30, because what happened that Sonprayag is a huge ground for parking. So that was the main area where the parking was. The Gaurikund parking was called to Sonprayag parking, and from Sonprayag parking, vehicles were sent above to the side of Trijugi. Ramada is a place where about 1,500 people at that particular point of time might have, I mean, they were there. But finally, only 350 of them can be saved. At 6:55 AM, wireless message, the sound and water from Chorabani side. There's about 500 to 700 people in temple. This was on 18th, because on 18th morning, about 6 AM in the morning, the first private chopper landed there at the Kedarnath right flank and started lifting people. Because it was small chopper, B5 and Bell 400, so they were only able to lift 3-4 people at a time. So but after 8:40, because we landed at about 8:40 at Kedarnath right flank, so we could have able to start lifting people in a bunch of 14, 15 or 20 like that. Even at that point of time, the policemen who were present there, because why I have written Mumbai and John, because they were my, because what I was thinking that they are now dead. So when I reached there and I saw them, I said कि चलो वापस चलते हैं, and when I hugged them, they were all drenched in water. So they said कि नहीं सर आप लोग चलिए, मैं इनकी लाइन लगा के भिजवा रहा हूँ. The main thing, Mayali route, why I am stressed upon this line, that there was no route. BRO also said that from Rudraprayag to Gaurikund, the road cannot be opened. So there was only option left was Mayali route, and that was opened on 18th. And as Amrit said, there was lack of sat phone. At that point of time, we could have sat phone. The major challenge was the dead body removal from helipads, because wherever there was helipad, so many people used to congregate around them that one or two might have died. So somebody died, nobody used to pick him up and keep him slightly away from the helipad. So that was a major task then. So this is a basic statistic that till now 297 people have been cremated, Yatris, DNAs, because we are actually maintaining all the DNAs, all the DNA sample we are, whosoever relatives have gone missing, they can send their DNA to CDFD and get it matched. This is a basic because lack of single command, I think everybody has stressed upon it. But like in one case, when I have said my men that Gaurikund की भाई तुम जरा जो बीमार है उनको देख लो, तो बोलता है कि सर अभी तो गौरीकुंड से जंगल चट्टी वाला रास्ता खोलना है। मैंने कहा उसमें ऑलरेडी आ भी जा चुकी है, तो बोला सर मुझे भी कहा जाने के लिए। तो वही हो रहा था वहाँ की, मतलब वी वर बेसिकली reinventing the zero all the time. 2-3 forces are working on the same channel, whereas many things were kept untouched. And media and leaders are trying to board chopper all the time. That was the main thing. I mean, how to stop them, I don't know. It was trend-seeking approach. I mean, all the forces over there, even police force, army, air force, हमने ये किया, हमने वो किया, वो सब थोड़ा सा हम लोग को छोड़ना चाहिए. ये मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ because अच्छा एक और चीज बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, हम लोग कहा था कि बॉडी प्रॉपरली दाह संस्कार होना चाहिए. At that height, when you don't have oxygen there, how can a body can be cremated so easily? I mean, it's a very tough thing. This Rambada Express is a formation of cloud actually at Rambada. And it's a very strange phenomenon. In 5 minutes, this cloud accumulates. The moment a helicopter goes inside Kedarnath, it cannot come back. I mean, it can happen for days, weeks.
We all have listened from the mouth of the people who were actually present over there, who were at the helm of affairs, what happened in Uttarakhand, how they could help out, what are the various issues and weaknesses which they pointed out. In fact, all these points I have been noting down very carefully. What are the points which they feel that as a central government and the intergovernmental coordination, what are the weaknesses and how we can implement, how we can remove those things for the future disasters. These presentations since morning has been a very micro level, definitely, because they could dwell upon what the efforts which were made by the forces, what were the efforts which were made by the district administration, and what was the efforts which were made by the state government and state police. I will take you on board from the presentation which was left from Mr. Pandey and Mr. Sinha, and then go into something different, something at the Government of India level perspective. And I am sorry sir, I am not very much prepared for what happened in the Home Ministry at that time. But definitely, first I will give you that brief, what happened in the Home Ministry at that time, and then we will come on to the actual presentation, which is mainly not only on relief and response, but mainly on the topic which you feel, which is at very close of your heart, that is the prevention and mitigation and mainstreaming of disaster risk reduction. In the Home Ministry, Delhi, you will not believe, there used to be a meeting of National Executive Committee daily at 5:30, where all the people from the central government, ministries, departments, forces, and the principal resident commissioner of the state government of Uttarakhand used to be present. We used to discuss what are the requirements of the state government to handle such type of disasters, how many helicopters required, what are the forces which are to be sent, then NDRF positioning and other matters, and used to be sought out then and there itself. And these meetings continued till 15th of July. So around 1 month, continuously daily basis, Home Secretary was personally chairing these meetings. So a perception that nothing happened or maybe very less things were happening is a misnomer, I should say. In fact, the government was so worried that after a certain time, when there were media reports and other things in the country that not much is happening and there is a mismatch of coordination or administrative problem, Shri Duggal, honorable member of NDMA, was deputed from the Home Ministry, from the government, to Dehradun as a national coordinator, not only for the relief and response phase, but also for the long-term recovery and rehabilitation problems. I will very briefly cover, since the time is very limited, what is meant by mainstreaming knowledge for coordination and administration. The presentation covers context for Uttarakhand. In fact, all these slides I have tried to make in such a way that 1 or 2 slides may cover the national perspective and then it goes to the perspective related to Uttarakhand. so that we can know what are the problems specifically for Uttarakhand, how the central government reacts to those problems, and then what are the considerations for Uttarakhand state government, so that they can take it up in their presentation to the cabinet committee about rehabilitation and long-term recovery plans. This is the general hazard vulnerability in India. We all know. We mainly concentrate now, as far as Uttarakhand is concerned, on this 3%. This is basically for the landslides, and this 3% has taken a heavy toll now, and we have seen a disaster of such a nature which we never thought that this will happen. India is prone to different types of natural hazards and has experienced several major disasters in the recent past. Hazards like landslides coupled with floods and debris flow, as has been mentioned by a lot of people over here. Debris flow is a major challenge. Causing huge destruction are also common. In addition, several human-made disasters cause huge loss of life and property. In fact, most of you may not be knowing that today a major rail accident has happened in Bihar. Till now, I am continuously receiving the messages. 35 deaths have already occurred in that. Rajdhani Express has crossed over the pilgrims in the Bihar. So this is a normal system. I mean, all sort of disasters, whether it is natural or man-made, we have to deal. Context for Uttarakhand: damages caused by floods are on a much larger scale, and recovery is a challenge in a hilly states like Uttarakhand. Rehabilitation following landslides is localized, and to find safer sites near such location is difficult. We do not want that people should be settled on the same place where they have been washed away and now again the river course has changed. We do not want. We want them to be a safer place so that they, if any future disaster strikes, they should not again be caught down in that disaster. Then augmentation of wireless, satellite and ham systems for robust early warning systems and communication is a challenge. In fact, one of the speaker in the morning, they told that if we have these satellite-based communication system, we can definitely cater to the disaster needs of the people in a much better way. Government has lot of plans, lot of communication systems are being developed, but this is not the forum to tell you about these things. This is our disaster management approach where we deal with prevention, mitigation, preparedness. We have already dealt in Uttarakhand response and relief portion, and now we are in the recovery phase. And recovery is basically consisting of two things: reconstruction and rehabilitation. While rehabilitation may be just to correct a thing, reconstruction is something very different, and reconstruction also involves recovery of livelihood of the people. National level initiatives, mainstreaming disaster risk reduction has been a very important thing in the development plans. Is an important mandate of the DM Act 2005. Importance of inbuilt disaster management into ongoing and new development schemes have been envisaged in the National Disaster Management Policy, and the Government of India has adopted mitigation and prevention as essential components of their development strategy. DRR is something which is a systematic development and application of policies, strategies and practices to minimize vulnerabilities and disaster risk within the communities. To me, DRR not only covers prevention and mitigation, but even relief and response phase also. Mainstreaming DRR can be done by awareness generation, by regular participation in disaster management activities of all the people, sensitizing communities, schools and institutions. We have the community level disaster management planning, where we can prepare community-based disaster management plans in coordination with district administration. We have the capacity building. This is one of the major aspects for disaster preparedness, whereby providing training on first aid and search and rescue techniques to the local community. And during response, we have seen all these coordination efforts in Mr. Pandey's presentation, where law and order, education, first aid, search and rescue, relief distribution and media management have been problems, but we are assembled today here only just to see what are the lessons learned from these things, so that in future disaster these things could be avoided. We feel that there is a need to drill down, thereby meaning that communities, usually poor and rural population, are the most vulnerable to impact of natural hazards. We all know this. Local communities are rarely consulted or able to influence the decision making. Now also, when we make a recovery plan for a small village where they are to be rehabilitated or they are to be relocated, we have to ask them only where they want to get relocated, or else their livelihood may suffer otherwise. DRR measures not included into new development schemes can compound negative impact of disasters on the socio-economic setup of the country. Lack of knowledge to deal with disaster is of course a challenge. Protection of the population and key infrastructure is essential to reduce damage caused due to hazards. And the well-coordinated institutional setup and effective emergency response planning are important for efficient response during the disasters. There are various constraints and requirements to overcome barriers between the department and the district administration. Convergence with climate change and sustainable development to start at the top. Knowledge management, databases, early warning systems, weather forecasting, and HVRA, that is hazard, vulnerability, risk analysis, dynamics are the major challenges, and ensuring strict implementation of plans of district and lower levels is a key priority. Considerations for Uttarakhand. We feel that if the state government can expeditiously prepare a comprehensive state disaster management plan, considering the fragile ecological system of the Himalayan region, the future disasters can either be avoided or can be tackled in a much more coordinated way. Methods for regulation of pilgrims with mandatory registration, identification, and movement to avoid rush at a particular vulnerable and critical site. This we can learn lesson from Vaishno Devi Yatra, where every pilgrim is registered and then they are also controlled at the entry level itself if there is heavy rush at the top. To examine mandatory insurance of pilgrims, to set up strengthen the state disaster response force for timely search and rescue. This during his speech by the chief from the Uttarakhand, by the chief resident commissioner, he also told that the government is now considering to strengthen their state disaster response force on the line of national disaster response force. This will give them a quick leeway when the people are to be moved to the disaster site. And then to consider movement of vehicles in batches with SDRF in pilot vehicle and communication system in case of major rainfalls or the major landslides occurring in the state. The road ahead as a general, not only for Uttarakhand, is the financing and resources. This has never been a problem, I can assure you, with the government, and it can be provided on case-to-case basis or as required. Create quick response teams at the field level. A lot of work has been done in some of the states in the area of civil defense and home guard, where the local response team of the quick response team have been constituted, who become the first responder along with the police, because they know the local geography very well. So similar effort can be made in the state. Integration with Panchayati Raj institutions and urban local bodies. Issues of scales, institutions, expertise and R&D. I will talk on just talking on the capacity building aspect. This issue of scale is a major problem. Mr. Anil Sinha, Vice Chairman of the Bihar SDMA is with us. He once told to us that they wanted to train around 2 lakh Panchayati Raj people for the disaster management, but they could hardly get it done for 5,000 people in the state in a year. That was so that is the issue of scale in India. That is the issue which we have to tackle, not only in the capacity building but also in the expertise, in R&D and in the other aspects of disaster.
Everybody. Sir, in fact, my name was not there for this presentation, but I had been there to Uttarakhand along with Vijay Datta, and we were there for about a week and were having a specific role to play there to check up as to whatever assistance we can give to the Uttarakhand with what experience we had it, and also the lessons learned which from them and what is the way ahead. I have got a long presentation, as of course the chairman has already said 10 minutes only. I won't go through it because some of the slides etc. are the same. But what I am going to restrict myself is to in the three categories. One, the good practices. Secondly, what are the lessons learned, and third is what the recommendations are. Firstly, about course, already been said. Yes, the role of the armed forces, the role of the paramilitary forces, NDRF has been extremely good and quite credible. Quite credible. I am sure they have also learned their lessons and will try and improve upon that, so that we get a much better response from them also. Because each disaster or each war, of course, gives out certain lessons from where we can improve upon. Secondly, in fact, nobody much has spoken about this NGO. NGO, of course, they played a very great role even in this particular disaster also, as they've been doing in the others too. But something which was lacking was basically the coordination of the NGOs. They were working on their own. Then, of course, something about the media. Media is something to say about the media. Yes, media played a very good role of keeping the administration on their toes, so that they do not make any mistakes and then they. But on the other hand, they were, in fact, there a lot of negative publicity came up, which of course was not called for had they been managed better. So there is something which is requirement. I do not know why in today also we do not have the media person giving their perception as to what they had. Why did they go negative on this one? It would have been much better in case they were also here. Then from the point of the lessons learned, the incident response system, we have been saying it, but it was at the state level, yes, it was implemented in an ad hoc manner. The Uttarakhand has got what is the 8-dash system, they tried it out, and but it was in an ad hoc manner. What should have happened there, that at the state level also, that emergency operation center, everything happens there only. But what we found there was basically a control room only, which was getting the information and passing it on. Decisions were made somewhere different. So what is meant that yes, the emergency operation center should be there and should be active with all the stakeholders were missing.
पिछले दिनों जो अनुभव हुए हैं इस डिजास्टर में रिलीफ के दौरान वो आप लोगों के साथ थोड़ा शेयर करेंगे। इस प्रेजेंटेशन का जो अगला एम है वो ये है कि जो तीर्थयात्री आते हैं, जो पिलग्रिम्स आते हैं, उनकी सेफ्टी इंश्योर हो, और जो हिल पर रहने वाले लोग हैं, उस क्षेत्र के रहने वाले लोग हैं, उनकी भी सेफ्टी इंश्योर हो। साथ ही साथ उस क्षेत्र के लोगों का इस डिजास्टर के बाद जो नुकसान हुआ है वो फिर से उनका एम्प्लॉयमेंट और सेल्फ रिलायंस जो है वहाँ के जो नीडी लोग हैं उनके लिए वो हो। साथ ही साथ वहाँ पर एक, जैसा कि पिछले कुछ प्रेजेंटेशंस में आया है कि लोगों ने अपने परिवार के सदस्य खोए। इन लोगों को हम लोग लेकर के जब आए तो उसके बच्चे जो है हेलीपैड से जब पंजाब का एक परिवार था, उसमें से 10 लोग गए थे, 5 लोग ये से बचे थे। उसमें से 13-14 साल का बच्चा था, उसको हम लोग हेलीपैड से लेकर के इधर बाहर तक आए, जोले ग्राउंड तक। वो बार बार पीछे पलट करके देख रहा है। तो हम लोग पूछ रहे हैं, बार बार आप पीछे यहाँ क्या पलट करके देख रहे हैं? तो कह रहे हैं कहीं पानी ना आ जाए। वो इतने ज़्यादा जो है सदमे में, इतने ज़्यादा वो परेशान है। ऐसे लोगों के लिए कि, और ख़ासतौर से वो हम लोग बाहर वालों की बात कर रहे हैं, उत्तराखंड के अपने जो निवासी, उन्होंने अभी बहुत कुछ इसमें खोया है। उनका जो स्ट्रेस और टेंशन है कैसे रिलीज हो, इस पर भी काम कर रहे हैं।